Hi. I was very taken aback when they said, "We'd love you to talk, but not about your research." Talk about this big stuff, digital scholarship and whatnot. I'm not the last person to go, am I?
No.
Okay, I'm not going to be the one thing standing between you guys and an open bar. What I was going to talk about is at a large scale the opportunities that we have as a university with digital scholarship. I'm kind of actually following up on some of the stuff that Michael was talking about at the beginning about with the budget crunch and with the opportunities we have, what we're going to be and who we're going to become over the next 5 and 10, 15 years. I think that digital scholarship and embracing the new opportunities and frankly the new realities of research in the digital age is something that we need to be thinking about very actively right now. And I'm going to start this whole thing by telling you something that all of you absolutely already know, which is that we are living in an age absolutely awash in information. I'm sure all of your inboxes right now can attest to the fact that we are overburdened and overrun with information coming from all kinds of directions right now. But as a historian, I want to tell you, and I know you know this, but I just want to reiterate it, we're living through a historical moment right now where the bottleneck for being able to access information has blown wide open, and that's changing everything, quite literally everything about the world that we live in. And this has happened incredibly fast. Just step back for a moment and consider that 60 years ago, it was only 60 years ago that computers made information machine readable. It was only 20 years ago that the internet made that stuff searchable, and it's really within the last 10 to 12 years with web crawlers that we've made what's available online into a database. And Google was founded in 1998, 1999, something like that. Very, very recent. So what we're living in, again, is this sort of explosion of information where what we've had in paper form and always had available to us is being transformed not into the matrix, but the worlds of ones and zeros, all right? And that opens up incredible opportunities, but also just a level of scale at which we've never, ever had to deal with before. So the question for all of us in this room, the college and the university right now is, what does this mean for UNT, and frankly for universities writ large? Because we are, when you get right down to it, in the information business. And this transformation that we're living through, that really has actually gained speed mostly in the last 10 years, is going to fundamentally, I firmly believe, remake everything about the university from head to toe. The ironic thing in all this is that while we should be at the forefront, and I say we in the larger sense of universities in this country, should be at the forefront of deciding what this means, what's going to happen, how we're going to engage this, is in fact that universities have been lagging behind in deciding how we're going to deal with these things. We have not, in fact, been at the forefront of determining that stuff. That's been private industry. That's been the Googles and the Microsofts of the world. But we're, in fact, I think the industry, if you want to call us that, that's going to be affected the most. Because everything about what we do, it depends on this, and everything that we are going to engage over the next coming generation of scholars is going to be engaging this stuff. So asking this question couldn't be more important. And I got to tell you, there are people out there asking it for us, saying what's going to happen to the university long term. And I just pulled one example off online because it was egregious and that's more fun to look at. This is from slate.com. You can see the subhead there. The web will dismember universities just like newspapers. If you read the article, and I don't recommend it, basically comes down to this sentence. Colleges, like newspapers, will be torn apart by new ways of sharing information enabled by the internet. And I'm sure many of you heard and read online not that long ago, Bill Gates basically said something to this effect, that online sharing basically means, what we do here is kind of pointless. Because all we are is about access of information. And you can understand why people would have this model. I mean, let's take Bill Gates, for example, his alma mater, which he didn't actually finish there, but Harvard, all right? What made Harvard Harvard? It's libraries. It's access to information. And the fact that you're founded in the 1600s, you can have a bigger library than most people. But Harvard became Harvard because of access to its information, which brought the best scholars to Harvard, which in turn brings the best students to Harvard, and you have this cyclical effect over time. Harvard represents, as does Yale and most of the Ivies, this old model of what universities used to be, which was access to information more than anything else. The digital revolution has completely flipped that on its head. That today, the bottleneck is not access to information. The question is now, what do you do with this crushing amount of information? And that is honestly the difference that's going to it's going to define the great universities of the 21st century. It's not access to information. That's been blown wide open and will continue to be so. It's what you do with that information and make sense of it that matters. And that is honestly why what we do as a college, from the humanities to the sciences, and frankly across the university, actually matters more than it ever has before. Bill Gates is wrong. And because none of this stuff matters, none of this information matters, none of this access makes a difference unless you can make sense of it, unless you can find patterns in it that are meaningful, unless you can teach your students to understand what it means and how we can apply it and why that matters. And so, in fact, Bill Gates and that Slate article have it completely wrong. But it does mean there's a challenge for us, and this is especially for the humanities and the social sciences, that if we're going to grapple with this problem of scale, which is really what the digital revolution means for scholarship, we have to fundamentally rethink how we work. The sciences have long given up on the idea that somebody can cure cancer all by themselves. They work on team collaborative projects and use large numbers of folks to deal with very complex problems. The humanities and the social sciences are going to have to grapple with that same problem as well in order to seize the opportunities available to us in the digital age, to be able to ask bigger and more interesting questions. Because when you can access this stuff on such a large scale, you can do things that you've never been able to do before. You can ask questions that you could never ask before. But only, again, if we're willing to question how we've done things in the past to engage the possibilities that are now given to us by this new situation.